when a celebrity marriage counselor who married his way onto Christian TV threatens to sue the watchdog investigating where $500,000 disappeared to? You know something's about to get wild. Days ago, Dr. Doug Weiss left a voicemail that he probably wishes he could take back. And what happened next? Let's just say the cease and desist might have been the worst move he could have made. Before we get into it, if you appreciate this kind of investigative content that follows the money and asks the hard questions, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. These stories need to be told, and you being here makes that possible. So, who is Doug Weiss? He's a marriage counselor and sex therapist who runs something called Healing Time Ministries and founded the American Association for Sex Addiction Therapy. Sounds legit, right? Or here's where it gets interesting. After Marcus Lamb, the founder of Daystar television network, died, Weiss married Marcus's widow, Joni Lamb. And just like that, this marriage counselor became a co-host on one of Christian television's biggest networks. Now, I'm not here to comment on anyone's personal life or their marriage. Consenting adults can make their own choices. But when you step into that level of platform and influence, your finances become a matter of public interest, especially when you're running a non-profit ministry that people donate to. And that's exactly where this story takes a turn. Back in December 2024, the Trinity Foundation, a ministry watchdog organization that's been investigating televangelists for decades, published an article about Weiss. And the findings? They're raising some serious red flags. Here's what they found. The Carl H. and Edith B. Lindner Foundation, a legitimate charitable foundation, gave Healing Time Ministries a $400,000 grant in 2022. The next year, another $150,000. That's over $500,000 flowing into Weiss's ministry. But here's the kicker. When you look at what Healing Time Ministries reported to the IRS for those same years, they filed what's called a Postcard 990. That's the simplest tax form for nonprofits, the one you use when your organization brings in $50,000 or less. Let me say that again. They received $400,000 in 2022, but told the IRS they made $50,000 or less. They received $150,000 in 2023, and again filed a Postcard 990 saying $50,000 or less. That's at least $500,000 that wasn't properly reported. And the obvious question everyone's asking is, where did the money go? And now it gets even more interesting. The Trinity Foundation also discovered that Weiss's American Association for Sex Addiction Therapy, which sounds like a professional nonprofit organization, isn't actually registered as a nonprofit at all. According to Colorado state records, it's just a trade name registered to Weiss personally. It appears to be operating as a sole proprietorship, meaning there's no legal separation between Weiss the person and the association. It's essentially just Doug Weiss doing business under a fancy name. So the Trinity Foundation publishes this article in December 2024, laying out all these concerns with documentation, public records, everything backed up. Fast forward to this past weekend. Trinity Foundation gets a voicemail from Doug Weiss himself. And according to their report, he's threatening to send a cease and desist letter if they don't take the article down, claiming it's false. Now, here's where this gets legally fascinating. In Texas, where the Trinity Foundation is based, the statute of limitations for libel is 1 year. The article was published in December 2024, and we're now in February 2026. That means Weiss literally has no legal standing to sue, even if he wanted to. But it gets better. After receiving this threatening voicemail, Pete Evans, the president of Trinity Foundation, actually called Weiss back. You know what Evans did? He asked Weiss a simple question. Did your accountant file an amended 990 to correct these errors? And according to Evans, Weiss said yes. The amended forms were filed. So Evans did what any good investigator would do. He called the accountant directly and left a voicemail asking for copies of these corrected 990 forms. As of this recording, crickets, no response. Here's where we are right now. Weiss claims the postcard 990s were filed by accident and have been corrected. But when you check the IRS website, which is publicly available for anyone to search, there are no amended 990s available for 2022 or 2023. Zero. Zilch. Nothing. The IRS tax-exempt organization. Search also shows no record of receiving a postcard or a regular 990 for 2024 either. So either the IRS hasn't processed these supposed corrections yet, which is possible but seems convenient, or they don't exist. Pete Evans even gave Weiss his email address and said, "Hey, you just tell us exactly what's wrong with the article and we'll correct it." That's literally what journalistic integrity looks like, folks. But instead of taking that opportunity to clarify the record with facts and documentation, Weiss went the legal threat route. Look, I want to be fair here. Is it possible there's an innocent explanation? Sure. Accounting errors happen. Maybe there's some complex financial arrangement we don't understand. Maybe the amended forms really are sitting in some IRS processing queue. But here's what's not helpful. Threatening legal action against watchdog organizations instead of simply providing transparency. If you're running a legitimate ministry and someone publishes something false about you, you don't need to threaten lawsuits. You just present the facts. You show the corrected forms. You demonstrate the transparency that donors deserve. The Trinity Foundation has said they stand by their reporting. They've done their homework. They've checked public records. They've documented everything. And they're willing to correct errors if Weiss can show them what's wrong. This is exactly why organizations like the Trinity Foundation exist. When ministries operate with questionable financial practices, filing incorrect tax forms, running associations as personal businesses, reducing transparency through trade names, someone needs to ask questions. And when $500,000 can't be accounted for, those questions need to be asked loudly. Here's the bigger picture we can't ignore. This is part of a disturbing trend in American Christianity. The Trinity Foundation's article points out that 30 years ago, the major ministries filed detailed 990 forms that disclosed salaries, expenses, revenue, real accountability to donors. But increasingly, ministries are using legal loopholes, trade names, and integrated auxiliary status to avoid filing these forms. They're reducing transparency right when they should be increasing it. And when watchdogs try to shine a light on questionable practices, they get threatened with cease and desist letters. I'll be watching this story closely to see if those amended 990s ever materialize. I'll be watching to see if Weiss provides the transparency and documentation that would put these questions to rest. And I'll definitely be watching to see if that cease and desist letter actually gets sent. Because here's the thing. When you threaten legal action against journalists doing their job, you usually make the story bigger, not smaller. So what do you think? Are these legitimate accountability questions, or is this much ado about nothing? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one. If you want to stay updated on this story and others like it, subscribe and hit that notification bell. Share this video with anyone who cares about financial accountability in ministry. And if you want to support independent coverage of these stories that the big Christian media outlets won't touch, consider becoming a channel member or checking out the links in the description. Thanks for watching. Thanks for caring about truth and transparency, and I'll see you in the next one.